What's going on, everybody? Me and Parker back. Another episode. Stay tuned.
Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins! Oh my God! Anderson going right to the right back. Armstrong with the football game.
Let's it fly.
Oh my goodness! Touchdown LSU! They win the game!
Back today, so I got time to be tripping and writing no love song. Yeah, writing no love song. We all experience love loss. Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Take His Whistle podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Parker. Parker, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Making it through day by day.
Feel that. All right, so first things first, Parker, before we even start, I just want to say the amount of support that, I guess me personally, the amount of support that I've been getting on the Louisville specific episode series is just absurd. Like, the video I posted 3 days ago surpassed the video I posted 5 days ago in views, likes, and comments. And the video 5 days ago is also, it has an absurd amount of support and in the comments, the likes, and the views. And I guess, this is a message to all of Card Nation, because I assume that's everyone that's watching those videos. I appreciate it. I really do. You guys are amazing. And me and Parker have jumped from 20 subs 5 days ago to 74 subscribers at the recording of this video. And
Wild.
that when me and Parker started this 5 months ago, we hoped that we could get somewhere like this eventually, but we did not expect to get there in less than half a year. And right. So we really appreciate it. And like I said, Parker's this, like I said in the episode, the last one, this is not just me. Parker puts in a lot of work too. I know. I don't want to underestimate at all what Parker's been doing. He's been grinding. I've been grinding. We're both in this together, and I'm sure he appreciates the support you guys are showing to him, the pod episodes, and my videos as well. But obviously, I don't want to speak for you, Parker. But
no, yeah, I mean, even like when I did my Kentucky ones, there was I was reeling in 50 views per video, and I was like, damn, I'm fucking. This is beautiful. And then the Louisville videos came out, and the Louisville fan base, I guess you could call it, the Louisville fan base just absolutely blew it out of the water. I have been astonished on how fast we have gained not only views but subscribers, and also our what's really important to me is our average duration time of how long people are watching these videos. Like, it is skyrocketed. And I know that like other podcasts, they're pretty long and not too many people are going to sit there and watch the entire hour-long podcast. But like whenever you do your 20-minute videos, or I do my 10-minute videos, and I'm seeing people are watching like 70% of the video on average. Like, that is awesome. Like, it's not just people are just like, oh, let me see. Oh, nope. And then just keep scrolling. Like, they are like legitimately kind of staying. And that's what I want. That is my goal, is to get a little small group of, even if it is 50 people, that continue to come back time after time after time to listen to us.
yeah, it's been incredible. And me and Parker have been texting every day, just like Parker said, astonished at what's been happening, because neither of us have seen something like this in our lives as far as content creation goes. And so we again, I'm going to say it one more time, we really appreciate it. Hopefully it could keep going, but we'll see. I know this is definitely a longer one, but I just wanted to get the thank yous out of the way. Also, a very important note to put out there. This episode, regardless of how you're hearing it, and the reason I say that is because this is the first episode of the Take His Whistle podcast that is going to be put up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all your podcast platforms. This is going to be the first episode up on those. So if you're listening to us through one of those, appreciate you for listening, and hopefully you stay here for more. And Parker, let's jump into it, man. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, it is rounding out into, it looks like we're pretty much at Final Four Saturday. I think that we kind of just briefly break down these two matchups. potentially just talk about who we think has an advantage over who. Both games, the spread has it as a not very exciting Saturday, but I mean, it is March Madness, and I wouldn't put either Alabama or NC State past the other team to win. With that being said, UConn, the number 1 overall seed, the defending champions, are playing Alabama, who might be their second or third time in the Final Four. It's been a while since they've made it to the Final Four. It might even be their first time. But a very high-powered offense that loves to run. They were ranked as the fastest team in college basketball. And I believe they're a 4 seed. So that potentially could be an exciting matchup. But like I said, they got UConn pretty heavy favorites. And then on the other side, they had Purdue, who is another 1 seed, who a lot of people said where it was the second best team in the nation all year long. They stole my hearts because they beat Tennessee. Any team that beats Tennessee has got some love from me. And they are playing NC State, who has been on this amazing run that I even told you, Josh, that literally if Louisville were to beat them, I don't know, a month ago at this point, they wouldn't even have been in the tournament.
Wouldn't be here.
And Louisville had a lead with like 5 minutes left in that game too. So like that's just crazy. What NC State has done, I'm speechless for it, because it's not like your traditional Cinderella story. And yeah, NC State is a power conference team, and so they play better competition than these average Cinderellas. But it has been win or go home for months now for NC State. Like even in the regular season, they couldn't afford to take any more losses, or they were just going to keep dropping lower and lower and lower in the ACC rankings, and they just continue to win. They won the entire ACC championship, and you could say they've kind of had a cakewalk in the tournament. But I mean that's neither. I mean it's still the best of the best in college basketball. I know it's America's team, and I'm rooting for them. I will say whoever wins out of Purdue and NC State, I'm definitely rooting for in the national championship. But like I said, Purdue is heavy favorites in this one. Josh, which one do you think is more likely to be an upset? Do you think NC State could take down Purdue, or do you think Alabama can take down UConn?
I mean, listen, I think hypothetically, it's March, man. Anything can happen in March. But if I had to put my money on an upset, I would definitely go NC State, just because I think if DJ Burns can lock up Zach Edey, which I know is hard because it feels like if you just slightly blow on Zach Edey, the whistle gets blown for him, which is very annoying to watch, and I hate watching it. But if he can effectively lock down Zach Edey and just shut him down, I feel like a decent chunk of Purdue's production is immediately taken away from them. And that's not to say that the rest of Purdue's team isn't good, or that the rest of Purdue's team isn't, can't perform. But we're talking about the guy who's averaging the most points per game in the nation right now. So, especially the run that DJ Burns has been on, specifically in March. I mean, that guy you want to talk about stealing hearts, Parker. That guy has stolen the hearts of the entirety of America. Like, unless you are a Purdue fan, you're cheering for DJ Burns. Like, that man has gained so much NIL notoriety over the last, month, and it's insane. And he's even gotten looks for the NFL draft, and he doesn't even play football. And so
That's crazy.
His popularity has skyrocketed. And yeah, if I had to put my money on an upset, it would be NC State over Purdue. But that's also not to say that I don't think Alabama can't beat UConn. The only reason I don't think it'll happen is because UConn has been absolutely running through everyone they have played. And when I say running, I mean running. UConn hasn't had a competitive game the entire tournament. They've literally just
They haven't had a competitive game this year nor last year. Last year they did the same exact thing.
Yeah, they've slipped up 3 times this year, and they were very early in the season too when those 3 slip-ups happened, and 2 of them were in their first what, 15 games, I want to say, Parker, and
they had a gauntlet. There was a tournament at the beginning of the season.
They did have a bit of a Big East gauntlet earlier in the season. One of their losses is to the NIT tournament winner, Seton Hall. So, take that for what you will, but it is what it is. But they lost 3 games like before the midpoint of the season, and then they didn't lose another game for the rest of the year. And on top of that, like you said, none of them were competitive either. UConn was just dog walking everybody they have played since those 3 losses earlier in the season. And come tournament time, they continued that run, and they've just looked so dominant. They've looked like one of the best teams that I've watched in a long time. And
yeah.
And the way that Dan Hurley's got them boys going into every single game, it reminds me of 2021 Georgia when Stetson Bennett and the boys were going for their second championship in a row, and earlier in the season, a report came out that Kirby said nobody believes in you guys. Like, everyone thinks you guys are gonna go 8-4. It was the most ridiculous comment I've ever heard in my life. Like, nobody was saying that about Georgia and them boys. But
just still had that underdog mentality.
The underdog mentality, and it lit a fire under them, and look what they did. They won back-to-back, and, of course, the Georgia players went into the headlines and started being like, y'all all doubted us. No, we didn't. But
nah.
No, we didn't. But that's kind of the same thing that I feel like we're seeing with this UConn team. Like, I feel like every time they step foot into that locker room, Dan Hurley's just like, guys, nobody believes in you guys. And I feel like the UConn players believe that. And it truly believes like that entire team is just going out there to prove something to everyone every time they step out on that court. And they're fun to watch.
Yeah. I do know, I've been kind of keeping up a little bit with their whole flight situation. They just landed in Arizona, I think yesterday, where I think all other 3 teams have been there since Monday. And I mean, it's different if even if you're coming from Kentucky to Arizona, they're coming from Connecticut. They're coming from Connecticut all the way to Arizona. That's completely across the country. That's every bit of maybe even a 14-hour flight. I don't know what it is, but I mean, they just got there, and there could be some jet lag involved in that. Sleep, obviously, you got to adjust to the sleep wise. I think it's a 3-hour difference in Arizona. The other thing, I told you, Josh, that this the other day. I said, is it bias of me to think that Kentucky's the only team that could have beat UConn? Well, the team that plays the most like Kentucky is Alabama. We could go into the head-to-head matchup between Kentucky and Alabama. It didn't go in Alabama's favor, but people all season long say Alabama is Kentucky, but with a better defense. And that was their whole problem all year long, is that they just couldn't play defense. Their offense was great, but they just couldn't play defense. Well, Alabama has a little less of an offense, a little worse offense, but a much better defense. I mean, the upset could happen. It definitely could. But like you said, Donovan Clingan is a stud. He's a beast. They got an experienced lineup. They're not young. They have a few transfers, but a lot of them have been there for more than 1 year. And then Dan Hurley's obviously a great coach. I think that I don't think UConn falls. I think they're definitely going to be in the championship. Now, the championship's a different story. I think the championship could be a different story, but I think that they take down UConn or Alabama. And then on the other side, Josh, let me ask you this. After this year, Zach Edey is no longer have college eligibility.
Feels like he's been there forever.
It does. I would guess he's going to try to go pro.
Real quick, I feel like you're gonna ask me where I project him to go or whatever. Just real quick on as far as Alabama goes, I do want to say, as far as March goes, their defense has really stepped up. The only real slip-up games they've had are against North Carolina, which was a really close game. They only won by 2.
But it's North Carolina.
And then in the first round against Charleston, where they let Charleston drop 96 on them, which is a lot of points. Alabama scored 109, which, is rough on Charleston, but same time, they let Charleston put 96 on them. And we could talk about who coached that Charleston team in a little bit if we really want to. But as far as Alabama goes, the reason I have a slight bit of confidence in them, Parker, is because that defense has stepped up. I mean, Clemson, who looked really good against Arizona, they shut Clemson down in that Sweet 16 game. And so, in that Elite 8 game, not Sweet 16 game. They beat North Carolina by 2 in the Sweet 16, and then they shut Clemson down in the Elite 8.
Right. Yeah.
So, coming into this Final Four, they're coming off of a very good defensive game, and they could ride with that if they really come in prepared. And like you said, with UConn just now getting to Arizona, you really don't know what type of effect that's going to have on these guys.
No, yeah. I mean, you got to think, like, not only are you adjusting to the sleep schedule, you're not in your own bed. You're all the way across the country. You got to play on this brand new court, this giant ass stadium. I mean, yeah, obviously they've been there before. They won it last year. Like, this is nothing new to them, but it takes a minute to kind of get acclimated. I think that's how you say it. With just everything that is going on. Like, you have so many cameras in your face. This is like big time. And so, I mean, yeah, it definitely is going to take a moment for them to kind of settle in, and who knows? Who knows exactly what the effect would have compared to a team that's been there since Monday.
Well, off of that note, what were you going to say about Zach? I kind of cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good. I was just going to say, if you look at draft ratings, or I guess mock drafts, not many people have him even getting drafted. They have him completely going undrafted. Now, there's other people that have him going top 15. And I think this is going to start that debate. This is going to end the debate, I should say, of is Zach Edey really good at football or basketball, or is he just big? And I think there's definitely a fair argument for both cases. I 100% see both sides. But, I mean, we've seen very, very tall guys in the NBA before that just don't really do anything. Boban Marjanovic, who's 7'8", 7'7", 7'6", whatever he is. Dude averages like 0.2 points a season. Like he barely plays, but he's the biggest player in the NBA. I mean, is that why he's going undrafted? Is because NBA scouts kind of just look past his height and like try to look at his basketball skill, and they're like, no, this guy's just giant. He's just like a foot taller than everybody else. Obviously, he's going to get these rebounds. Obviously, he's going to get these putbacks. I don't know. What do you think?
It's hard for me, especially because, I didn't watch too many college games this year just because of how bad my team was. It was really demotivating to watch any basketball. But from what I have watched, I think pro scouts are seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, the same thing you're seeing, the same thing that a lot of people are seeing. And the truth is that Zach Edey, as much as he is scoring, a lot of it's coming from just him being big, standing in the paint, moving left and right until he gets the ball, and then just turning around and barely doing this and making it. Or getting fouled and going to the free throw line, which he's probably one of the most fouled people in college basketball, if I had to guess. And
I'm sure.
And when I look at it, when I look at Zach Edey, obviously he's 7'4". He's tall as shit. So, like, I don't expect him to be sitting behind the three-point line like a Kyle Filikowski, whatever. I can't say his name save my life. But, we don't see Zach sitting behind the three-point line and shooting threes like we do Kyle. So, it's just a different type of thing. I think Zach is more of the old traditional center who would sit in the paint and is a rim protector and is expected to just stay in the paint and stay away from the three-point line. And, leave that area to the guards, the forwards, like give them room. And so I think he is, told or coached to just stay in the paint because, one, he's 7'4", so he's tall. He's taller than anybody on the court. Two, he's big, and he's not that mobile. So, if you're tall, big, and not that mobile, what else are you going to do besides just stand there? So I think he reminds me just more of the old traditional, like early 2010s or even early 2000s type big men before, we saw Nikola Jokic or any of the or Embiid or Cat, the guys pulling up from the three-point line as 7-footers. He's not a stretch five. Let me put it that way. He's not a stretch five. He's a very old-time classic five. And by that, I just mean, like I said, stays in the paint and is expected to stay in the paint.
And, like, in the NBA, it's kind of weird because the play style that works best in college for big men is, like, the exact opposite that works best in the NBA. Like, in the NBA, you're almost expected, if you're a big man, to be able to pass the ball, to be able to shoot a three ball, to be able to not just set the screen, but also run the screen. Bam Adebayo for the Heat he was kind of one of the last traditional big men that was like really elite, where he didn't rely on shooting the ball. He relied on being very physical down low, getting rebounds and putbacks and dunks and stuff like that. And then this year comes along, and now he shoots the three ball all of a sudden. He came out of nowhere with a 3-point shot. Like, even someone like that who has kind of solidified himself as just a hard-nosed physical center, even he has adapted his game to be able to shoot threes. It's just it's just how it's the meta of the NBA right now. You have to shoot threes. And you look at college, it's kind of the opposite. Yeah, there are some big men that can shoot threes, but look at your very successful centers over the past recent times. They were people that just didn't care if they got hit. Oscar Tshiebwe was, like I've said it, arguably the greatest player in the entire Cal era. He couldn't shoot. He had the ugliest jump shot known to man. But he just relied on getting physical, getting hit, grabbing rebounds, and putbacks and free throws. And so, like Zach Edey, or like Oscar Tshiebwe, you could say, Oscar Tshiebwe just won Rookie of the Year in the G League. Averaged 20 rebounds a game. You're telling me there's not an NBA team that wants that can grab 20 rebounds a game, but yet he doesn't play like a traditional big man. And so that's why he's sitting in the G League. And I think that easily could be where Zach Edey's fate is heading, is to being an absolute stud and still putting up really good numbers, but not necessarily contributing to a actual NBA team.
Yeah, and if he can develop even a short mid-range shot or a mid-range shot, that would boost his stock or boost his skill and ability by so much. Because even now, we don't see him, putting up mid-range shots or anything like that.
Free throws the most.
Yeah, free throws is the farthest that he'll go, and those are not contested and they're free throws. So. Now, granted, he is good at shooting free throws, considering how tall and big he is. I will give him that. He is a good free throw shooter. But I feel like in today's game, he's definitely got to expand his range a little bit, or else it's looking a little grim as far as how successful he can be in the league.
Right. I agree. Well, do you have anything else to talk kind of Final Four, or do you kind of want to move on from that?
As far as Final Four goes, I guess I don't have anything else, but let me go ahead and just ask you what's your prediction? Who do you have in the chip?
I'm gonna take the safe route. I'm gonna take UConn versus Purdue, and then I'm gonna have I'm going to have UConn go back-to-back. I'm going to take the safe route here.
I'm going to go, which I think you know what I'm going to say here. I'm going to say NC State, UConn in the national championship. I think with the way NC State's playing, they've looked really impressive, especially in that last game. The way that they in the second half specifically against Duke, the way they were able to just close out that game without making any mistakes, like at all, and they forced Duke to make a ton of mistakes, like mistake after mistake. It felt like. And they were playing very good defense, very aggressive defense, but like I said, without fouling. And so I feel like Keats really has them on a really good path right now, and I think they can do it, especially against a Purdue team who, like I said, Parker, most of their production does come from Zach Edey. And so if they can shut him down, I feel like they can pull it out.
Do you... it's like where was this NC State during the regular season? Because weren't they the 11 seed in the ACC?
Maybe at the beginning of the season, and then
in the tournament, weren't they the 11 seed in the tournament?
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, where did this where has this come from? And I've been saying it. I feel like I think I've been saying this since the ACC championship. I was like, this is so unsustainable for NC State to play like they did all season long and then get hot and then continue to stay hot. And I said that after they beat North Carolina in the championship. And yet they continue to prove me wrong. I mean, like I said, I picked Purdue just because it's safe, but I 110% won't be surprised if it is NC State going to the championship again.
Yeah. I really wouldn't be surprised if it was NC State or Purdue. But
that was a toss-up.
As in regards to a different tournament here, the women's tournament, the championship game is decided. It is going to be South Carolina versus Iowa.
And I don't want to say that
and that game's going to be tomorrow.
Is rigged. Is that tomorrow?
Yeah.
Like as in Saturday or Sunday?
As in tomorrow, Saturday, April 7th.
Really? So they only have one.
Which is very surprising. They don't even
have a day's rest.
Yeah, that's very surprising. It says that the game's tomorrow at 3, which is kind of crazy.
I don't want to say that college sports or sports in general is rigged. I have thought it before, and I have done research on it, but I really try to just believe that college sports is not rigged. And a part of me. And obviously, crazy stuff happens in sport all the time. It happens all of the time. But South Carolina, if you've watched any women's basketball, which I will say I have not watched too much women's basketball, but what I have watched is South Carolina is 1,000% the most dominant team in women's basketball this year. Without a question. But, on the other side, Caitlin Clark is the face of women's basketball right now. And she has done everything known to man in college sports besides one thing, and that is to win a national championship. That is the only thing she has not done. Caitlin Clark is great. She's phenomenal. I absolutely love watching her play. She's really Iowa's one of the only teams that I will genuinely make sure I take a second to watch because of her. But even her alone still really can't compete with this South Carolina team. This South Carolina team is so fucking good, dude. They're so dominant. And like I said, I don't really know players. I don't know who South Carolina has. But I know all season long they have been the best team in women's basketball, and it really hasn't changed since. But it just makes me think, if Caitlin Clark somehow wins, is there some tomfoolery in the air because she is definitely the poster child of women's basketball right now?
Well, as far as it being rigged, I don't know. But I'm sitting here looking at the stats of women's basketball, and the difference in Caitlin Clark's averages over the rest of her team are literally so insane. Like, I've never seen something like this ever. Caitlin Clark averages 32 points a game. The next closest person on that team averages 13.8. Caitlin Clark averages the most rebounds on the team, which is crazy because she's a guard. Yeah. She's the point guard, and she averages the most rebounds. She averages 7.3. The next best is 6.8. She averages the most assists at 9. She averages 9 assists a game. The next closest is 3.1. And so the way she carries that team is so absurd. Like, if I had to put it into an outsider's perspective, it's Caitlin Clark versus South Carolina. And I don't mean that. I don't mean any disrespect to the other women on Iowa's team, but I mean, honestly, I'm just saying it how it is. It really is Caitlin Clark versus South Carolina, and South Carolina is such a powerhouse. They didn't lose a game. They didn't lose a game this year, and that team, as in South Carolina, plays so together that I find it so hard to think that Iowa can take them down. Because South Carolina just plays so well as a team. They play very united. Right. They play very, together. They play as a team. And ultimately, I think that's what I think that's what's going to get them the win. It's just being more of a team rather than having one person. Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. Like crazy things happen in sports all the time. There's crazy upsets. Oakland beating Kentucky. St. Peter's beating Kentucky. UMBC beating Virginia, like stuff like giant upsets happen all the time. And to some people, Iowa beating South Carolina wouldn't even be an upset, but it is, if you really look at it, it is an upset. But there's no business for South Carolina to lose, and so and like I said, I don't want to believe that there is anything going on, that they are kind of predetermining these wins. But at the same time, I have seen people talk about it, and it would make sense for Caitlin Clark to leave college basketball on top of the world with a national championship. She has completed everything that there can be to complete in college basketball besides a 100-point game, and she's gotten pretty close to that as well. But I don't know. It's definitely, if Iowa wins, it's definitely going to raise some eyebrows. I guarantee it will.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. All right, Parker. What would you like to move on to?
I guess speaking of women's basketball really quick, I saw that Kentucky's women's basketball team is kind of on top of the world right now. We've gotten so many players over the past 24 hours, I'm pretty sure. We got like 2 All-Americans from Virginia Tech that moved with their with Kentucky women's new head basketball coach. Me personally, I would love for Kentucky to go after Haley Van Leith. Not that she would ever come here, but I definitely would not be mad if Kentucky went after Haley Van Leith to lead the team one last year.
I wouldn't be surprised if she went to Kentucky just because of the way that her tenure ended here. It ended horribly. The way she left and then, essentially KD'd herself to the LSU. I could tell you this, Louisville fans were so happy that they lost to LSU because, she played terrible. LSU played terrible. And also, I just, this is going to sound really funny to say to me, but I saw a lot of people, kind of, not insulting, but roasting the LSU women's basketball team because of the way they held themselves in the press conference after the loss. I'm not going to go too deep into it just because it is what it is. But, a lot of people were essentially being like, nah, keep the same energy after you lose. Right. If you don't win and talk shit to the entire world and the other team and be what you are when you win, And then when you lose, you go off and do. If you watch basketball, if you're on Twitter, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's hard to like a team or a player after they do something like that. So that's just my 2 cents.
I don't care. Haley Van Leith has my heart. She's got my heart. She's got it. She's just pulling those strings, dude. I'm telling you right now. I wonder. It does. I mean, it's kind of crazy because she's pretty elite. She's pretty good. And I mean, and she goes to LSU.
I will say this: Haley Van Lith is the number 1 option on any other team except for LSU.
Yeah. And so she
like going to LSU really it genuinely ruined her as a player, and everyone saw it in her averages this year.
Do you think that?
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're good. Do you think that she went to LSU to ring chase? Do you think that's ultimately why she went to LSU?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So where does she go now? Does she continue to ring chase? Does she go somewhere like South Carolina? Obviously, Iowa's going to take a step back after they lose Caitlin Clark, but does she go to UConn? I don't know where she goes now.
I have seen a lot of reports saying that she could be headed to UConn. But there's a little bit more to her going to UConn than just ring chasing. Like, she has relationships with the players on that team because she used to play with them in high school. She has a relationship with the coach. She has deep relationships within that program. It's not the same as LSU, where she just kind of went to LSU to, get a bag and a ring, hopefully, which didn't happen. But yeah, there's deeper roots with UConn than there is LSU.
It's strange. It's definitely a strange situation because, I mean, I know even as Kentucky, coming as a Kentucky fan, like when she was in Louisville, like all Kentucky fans like loved her. All right, like they were fans. They were like legit fans of Haley Van Leith when she was playing at Louisville. And then to me, from what I've kind of seen, it was like a little unexpected for her just to get up and leave after, 1 season or 2 seasons?
No, she was at Louisville for 2 or 3 seasons, I think.
2 seasons. And she just gets up and leaves, goes to LSU to, like you said, she KD'd Louisville, went to LSU to go ring chase, and now she kind of fell flat on her face because, I mean, I think that LSU...
Yeah, she was at Louisville for 3 seasons.
She was there for 3 years?
Yeah, and then LSU was her 4th season, so LSU was her senior season, but she has that COVID year eligibility. Yeah.
She went to LSU, which in my opinion, I think that LSU run was a fluke last year. I feel like there were many teams better than LSU last year. Or it's just because I just genuinely, I don't like their demeanor, their aura, whatever it is about that whole LSU squad. But she went there, it didn't work, and now it's like she's almost going to be portrayed as a villain if she then leaves to go somewhere like UConn or South Carolina or somewhere else to, even if it is because of other players, but also but at the same time, people are going to see it as, oh, she's just trying to go win a ring. She's trying to get carried to a ring. That's just how the media is. That's how they're going to portray her. If she does go to another big time contending school.
Yeah. Regardless of how I feel, how Louisville fans feel, how anybody feels, she's just doing what she thinks is best for her career. And, best of luck to her wherever she chooses to go. The situation with Louisville is pretty much water under the bridge at this point.
Right.
So, it is what it is. But Parker, I guess, not much has happened as far as the Kentucky space of things.
Whoa. There's been hella stuff going on.
I haven't seen anything, but feel free to fill me in.
Nothing has been official, but we have 3 guys Four guys. We have four guys that we are heavily going after right now. As far as the transfer portal goes, the only people that we have lost, which you do know this, is Aduthiero, who I would say right now there's a better chance of him coming back next year than leaving. Like, I'm pretty sure he's coming back next year, but he's testing the water. He also entered the transfer portal to test his value. He's just he's doing him, but I have a feeling he's going to be back because he absolutely adores the university. And then Justin Edwards just declared for the draft the other day, which I know to a lot of people that was quite shocking. They think that he underperformed and he bailed. There actually a trend was started, a hashtag was started, was fail and bail as the University of Kentucky. You fail and then you bail. And so I think that I me personally, even if you watch that Kentucky video where I said where everybody was going to go, I 100% said that Justin Edwards was leaving. I just didn't think that he was ever going to stay for a sophomore year. He's got the potential. He was, I believe, the highest rated freshman in this class, or if not, he was second. There was no way he was going to stay another year because he has that potential. He probably won't be a first round pick. He'll probably definitely be a second round pick, but I mean, he'll potentially be a role player at some point. But those are the only two players that have necessarily actually said anything. Obviously, people are definitely waiting on Reed Shepherd's decision. We still don't know what is happening with that, and I don't know why we haven't, but it's crazy. We pretty much know Rob's gone still, but nothing's been official. He potentially could stay, but there's no way. But as far as the transfer portal goes, we've reached out to 4 people that I definitely know of. There might have been more than that, but 4 people definitely that I really wouldn't be upset with if we got any of them. The first is Cliff Amore from Rutgers, who is a big man, who is very physical, very strong, and if our team is like anything like it was last year, he'll be extremely valuable. BJ Freeman from Milwaukee, who is a guard, who is an absolute bucket getter. He's just very crafty, creative senior. Could be a leader, but he's also coming from Milwaukee. You don't know too much about the guy. You don't know too much about him, and also, like, you just don't know. He's never really played in big-time games, just being at Milwaukee. But we've reached out to him. We've reached out to Michi Johnson, who could be very, very huge. Michi Johnson was a guard for South Carolina this past year, who was some could say he was the best player on that crazy season they had this past year. We've reached out to Michi Johnson. And then finally, the last guy which would be crazy, which would just be an insane story if this happened, but Lance Ware from Villanova. We have reached out to him. And for people, if you are listening, and that name sounds familiar, is because Lance Ware started his career at Kentucky. He then transferred, went to Villanova, and Kentucky has reached out to him to come back to Kentucky for a reunion. And then another hashtag was started, was the last Lance instead of the last dance, the last Lance. With him, I mean, he had his moments. I didn't really keep up with him this year at Villanova. I don't really know what he did this past year. But at Kentucky, he had his moments. He always brought 110% effort. That was one thing that you knew he was going to bring, even if his shot wasn't working, his defense wasn't there. He was going to at least bring the effort. It wasn't going to look like he was just like pissed off at the world. So, I mean, and he might have matured in the 1 year of being gone, or 2 years being gone, however, 1 year. The 1 year he's been gone. So who knows? But those 4 players, I would be happy with all of them. Definitely not gonna be frowning if we end up getting any of those guys. But I think before anything is gonna be official, I mean, we're gonna have an overload. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to get rid of some of these players. Some of these players are gonna have to go. Right? We have such a large freshman class coming in. We have like 5 or 6 freshmen coming in that are all extremely good. Boogie Fland, who is probably the most exciting freshman that we're getting, is a point guard. He's supposed to be our starting point guard this next year. I mean, and there's a chance that he won't even be the third string guard on this team. Like legitimately, if you look at it and Reed Shepherd comes back, if DJ Wagner comes back, if we get someone like Michi Johnson or BJ Freeman, I mean, where does Boogie fit into all that? Like there's so much talent still out there, and if we decide to go to the transfer portal and get whoever, and we also get DJ Wagner and Reed Shepherd and whoever to stay, I mean, somebody's not going to get playing time. That's just how it is. Like that, or all we're gonna run 5 guards a game that are going to get 8 minutes apiece, like Travis Perry, who has been extremely. And like all of BBN has been extremely anticipating his arrival to Kentucky. I'll be honest, that Travis Perry may not even touch the floor his freshman year. I'll be honest, like legitimately, because I think there could be that much of a talent overload, and he is undersized. He isn't the biggest, the fastest, the strongest. He doesn't really create his own shot. He's more of a setup and let the play develop for him instead of him making his own shot. And if it's anything like that, Travis Perry won't even touch the floor. That's how much talent we have. And he is potentially the most talented high school basketball player in our generation, if you look at stats-wise. So, I don't know. Something's going to have to happen. Players are going to have to leave. There's going to be some disappointments. Me personally, I just hope that Reed comes back for a year or two to... because, I mean, why not, you know? But no, that's everything I got as far as Kentucky was.
Okay. Yeah, I did not know that. That's very good to know. As far as Louisville goes, we've already secured a commitment from a top transfer guy in Terrence Edwards Jr., Sun Belt Player of the Year, from James Madison. He is a tall guard. He stands at 6'6" as a guard, which, as you know, is tall. I think everyone knows that's
right.
Tall for a guard. But he averaged 17.2 points on the year, which led his team, which led James Madison. And he led James Madison to the second round in the tournament. They lost to they beat Wisconsin, and then they lost to Duke
in the second round.
But his splits are very reasonable. You know, he's shooting at a 42, 32, 79 split. So, which for those of you that don't know is field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage. And the 3-point shot could be better, but you know, he makes them count when he has to, and he's very good at driving. That's one thing I've noticed from watching his highlights and film. His aggressiveness when driving to the paint is next to none. His hip movement near the rim, the way he can move his body, he's a very smooth player. You know, he's not gonna shock you with his speed or athleticism, but just his fundamentals and how smooth he plays the game is it's honestly very nice to watch. Like, it's very fun to watch, just the way he can just smoothly get to the basket and create his own shot at the basket. Nice. Yeah, he's a very good player, and it's a huge get for us. As far as other guys go, the other names that I have seen are Dante Maddox Jr. from Toledo. He is a 6'2" guard. He shoots at a 43, 37, and 88 split. And that 3-point percentage, by the way, which actually, now that I'm looking at it, I'm just now realizing that is the away splits only. I don't know why it's only showing me the away splits, but those were the away splits.
Right.
His overall, if I can find that real quick, his overall split on the year is 45, 40, and 81. That's it. Nope. I lied again. That's his career. I'm not even going to bother. He's a good 3-point shooter. That's what he's known for. He's a sharpshooter. If you watch his highlights, he is literally pulling from beyond the 3-point line in every single 3-point shot he shoots, it feels like. And he's making damn near every single one of them. If we can get him, he is going to be a great breath of fresh air as far as sharpshooting goes, just because Louisville hasn't had a sharpshooter like him And quite frankly, Raiden Smith fits into this category too. We haven't had a sharpshooter like Dante Maddox Jr. or Raiden Smith since probably Ryan McMahon. And, I mean, these guys can just shoot lights out. His career three-point percentage, Parker, in college is a 40%. So, you know,
That's really good.
Yeah, which is really good. And especially if you watch the threes he's taking, I'm not kidding you, Parker. He is shooting from damn near the logo every single shot. So, lights out shooter. You know, obviously he's not the tallest, but you know he's got good speed. He can create his own shot, which is something that I can't say the same for Rain Smith. Rain Smith is more of just a spot up shooter. You know, off the ball, moves off the ball, gets open off the ball, and then you know pass and pop type of deal. Dante Maddox Jr., however, can create his own shot, get his own three off, get his own mid-range off, and he's very respectable when driving to the rim as well. So Dante Maddox Jr. would be a huge get for us. Also, he was an All-MAC player this year. I don't know if he was MAC Player of the Year, but he was an All-MAC player this year. So one of the better players in the MAC conference this year, which for Louisville fans who are saying that we need to go for P5 guys and not mid-major guys, I would agree, but we can't go out and get every single P5 guy that's in the portal. You know what I mean, Parker? And especially with what guys are asking for nowadays. I mean, you got guys asking for $1 million in NIL publicly, or else they're not even going to consider your school. So
Right, yeah.
So, you know, Louisville's got to Pat's got to pick and choose who he wants to go for, and he's picking and choosing some of the best mid-major guys in the country. Guys that led their teams to the tournament and made a run in the tournament. And Terrence Edwards Jr., I know he only won one game in the tournament, but regardless, he beat a very respectable Wisconsin team. And, you know, these other guys, I would expect Pat. Obviously, this transfer portal window is closed, but it opens back up next week, I think. I would expect Pat to get at least one or two P5 guys into the team to come in as instant starters. That's my guess. And then I would assume that he could probably return 2-3 guys from last year's team. Obviously, Sky Clark's off the table, and obviously Brandon Huntley Hatfield's off the table as well. Sky Clark committing to UCLA, Brandon Huntley Hatfield committing to NC State. It sucks because I definitely thought that out of everyone, those two would probably be two of the three guys that I would have expected to return to the team. So it does hurt. It does suck. But
Especially
end of the day,
EHA.
yeah, especially Brandon. He the way he progressed throughout the season was so impressive. He really came into his own towards the end of the season. But I feel like a lot of people could kind of tell that his heart just wasn't here. And by here, I mean Louisville. I think the losing really got to him. You know, only winning 12 games in 2 years. And he was here for both years. So
And that's for anybody, you know. That's anybody. It's going to be draining to be in that type of, no offense, but that type of losing culture.
yeah, no,
It's just like how can you be optimistic about your future, your basketball future, whenever your team is winning 8 games a year?
yeah, it's tough to be a part of something like that, and I completely understand why he wanted out. And same with Sky Clark, and I wish him the best. There's one name, Parker, that's in the transfer portal in regards to Louisville that I so hope that Pat can bring back, and that's Mike James. Because like Brandon Huntley Hatfield, Mike James improved very well throughout the season. He could shoot the ball very well. He was respectable on defense and was one of the better players on the team this year. And I know the fan base loves him. I know the fan base really wants him back. And it seems like there's a really good chance that he could come back. You know, multiple fans have run into him at the airport, funny enough, and they've asked him if he's going to come back. And, you know, he doesn't immediately, well, and obviously he's not just going to immediately be like, hell no. But there's some talks that he's is very highly considering coming back. And I would take him back every day of the week, 24/7.
Yeah.
But real quick, the other two guys that we're looking at in the transfer portal are both, funny enough, FAU guys, or in other words, Dusty May guys. And that's FAU guard Nicholas Boyd and FAU guard John L. Davis. Now, I mentioned John L. Davis very lightly because, in my opinion, I don't think we have a shot. I think he's Dusty May's to lose, personally.
You think he's going to Michigan?
I think he's going to Michigan. Yeah, and I think Louisville is really it's between Michigan and Louisville from what I've heard, and as far as I know, really the only reason we're in there is because of the NIL bag that he'd get if he came here. That's really the only reason that we're even in consideration. You know, because those FAU boys love Dusty May, and another thing I think we could offer John L. Davis is bringing back his cousin, Coron Davis, who, like many of you know, if you're a Louisville fan, is in the transfer portal, former player for Louisville. And I think if John L. Davis comes here, we have a good shot of bringing Coron back, or if we bring Coron back before John L. Davis commits, I feel like we could get a good shot at getting John L., which he would be an outstanding player to get too, you know, averaging 18.2 points per game, leading FAU in points per game. Very good shooter from the three-point line, very good shooter from the field as a whole. Shot 41.4% from the three-point line, 48.3% from the field. And he's about an 85% free throw percent shooter. So a very good player. The only gripe I have about him is that in late game moments and clutch time and crunch time moments, he tended to kind of force shots to try to, you know, make the shot,
be that guy,
guy, and it didn't work every single time. And so that's the only worrisome I have about him, is that he's just kind of tried too hard to make that shot. But other than that, outstanding player. Very athletic, great at creating his own shot, great at driving, great at shooting. You know, like I said, great player. He would be an immediate starter if he came here. And I don't know if you just saw what I just saw, but that was very weird. Did you see that?
I didn't see it.
A little like button popped up on your webcam. It just kind of caught me off guard.
Ooh, I wonder if that was me. I wonder if I did not even see that shit, bro. I swear
I don't know what that was. It caught me off guard so bad. And as far as Nicholas Boyd goes, he only played in hold on, let me get my right info here. He only started 14 games this year. He only played in 27. He's only a sophomore, but a respectable averages for a sophomore. He averaged 9.3 points on, you know, very minimal games played, or games started for that matter. He got about 24 minutes a game. He shot 40% from the field, 34.1% from the three-point line, and about 84% from the free throw line. I think he is definitely more of a developmental piece if we got him, because, you know, he's young. He would have to be developed. But at the end of the day, I think he has great potential. And that goes for everyone. You know, Dante Maddox Jr., even though he is a great mid-major guy, I think he has good Power 5 potential. Same with Terrence Edwards Jr. A great mid-major player, but I think he has outstanding Power 5 potential. And, yeah, that's all I've got as far as Louisville. 4 guys, 4 names to look out if you're a Card fan. Mainly 2 of them, especially since Terrence is already committed. I would keep your eye out on Dante Maddox Jr. and Nicholas Boyd. Like I said, John L. Davis is a long shot, but if we got him, it would be incredible.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I've got.
So I do want to bring up one last thing, and it kind of plays off of what you said about how much just money Louisville can throw at some of these mid-major guys, these top mid-major guys. Josh, I just want to get your opinion on your kind of standpoint. So we briefly had this discussion a few nights ago. Obviously this Final Four is pretty chalk. Like, yeah, NC State is an 11 seed, and that's crazy, but NC State is also an ACC team. They're still a Power 6 school. Alabama is an SEC school. They're a 4 seed. Like, it's pretty chalk. Even if you look at the first round, Oakland was really the only upset. Oakland beating Kentucky was really the only upset of the year. There was, I think there were a few. There was definitely a few. I know there was. I can't think of them off the top of my head. But they weren't like crazy, like, oh my gosh, type of upsets like Oakland beating Kentucky was. And a part of me is this ultimately what we could see at the downfall of March Madness. So there's been this conversation about if March Madness should change their format to pretty much let every team in, or majority of teams into the tournament instead of 64. And so the reasoning is because, like, there is no more Cinderellas. Maybe this was just a one-time thing, and maybe it'll be normal again next year. But I don't know if it will, because you have a breakout season. And I'm going to use B.J. Freeman as an example, because he went to Milwaukee, and Milwaukee didn't even make the tournament. He still has a year of eligibility. I'm sure Kentucky is just one of several schools that has reached out to him. He's going to go get his bag somewhere. He's leaving Milwaukee. He's going to go get a bag. He's going to go play in the NCAA tournament. If we go back 4 or 5 years ago, there's probably a good chance B.J. Freeman doesn't leave Milwaukee. So that means he's going to come back for another year. He's probably going to be even better than he was this past year. There's a chance that Milwaukee could make the tournament next year. Maybe get an upset, maybe pull off an upset win. But now, with the day and age of transfer portal and NIL, these top mid-major guys are not staying in mid-majors. As soon as they have a breakout season, they're going to go play Power 5, Power 6. Do you think this is ultimately the downfall of March Madness? Because I do want to just elaborate really quick. If I say the downfall of March Madness as in if it continues to persist as there's no upsets, the viewership will still be good, but it's going to drop. People love March Madness, and they say it's the most exciting tournament in the world because quite literally anything could happen. You look and you go fast forward 3-4 years down the line, and there's just no upsets, and it's just top 4 seeds in the Final Four year after year after year after year after year. Your favorites are in the Elite Eight. Like, all the favorites are in the Elite Eight. It's blue blood, you could potentially say, ran the entire tournament and stuff like that. There's just no upsets. Viewership's going to drop, which is going to potentially make NCAA be like, hey, because we're not making as much money, let's just put out more games. Let's just make the tournament bigger. So there's more games to be played. There's more ads to be ran. So they can kind of make up that money. To me, I don't like that. I think that it kind of just derails a lot of different things just because right now you have to be perfect for 6 straight games where if everybody in college basketball got in the tournament, now you're looking at potentially you have to be perfect for, 12, 14 straight games. Who knows? But do you think that we could see college basketball potentially kind of just changing in that direction simply because of the fact no one is staying in mid-major? As soon as you get a little bit as soon as you make a name for yourself, you're pretty much going to a big school.
Yeah. It's hard to tell, especially because this is really like the first year of this type of thing.
100%.
And so I think we need a couple more years under the belt to see how it really goes. But, you and me say it all the time. The rich stay rich. Like the Kentuckys and Louisvilles of the world, they're not going to go poor. Like, this fan base and the boosters and everybody who supports and pays for the program, they won't allow it. Whereas, these Ivy League schools or these smaller D1 schools who are having to pull in D2 transfers, like what Charleston did. Pat Kelsey pulled in a bunch of D2 guys and then led them to the tournament. But that's essentially the competition that you're going to have every single year. At least that's what it looks like. You're going to have these teams filled with D1 transfers, the top D1 transfers in the nation from the year prior, going up against a team full of D2 transfers. Now, I'm not saying D2 guys. I'm not saying that there's some D2 guys out there that can't compete with D1 guys. But
Jack Golke.
Yeah, Jack Golke.
Dalton Connect.
Yeah. So, I mean, these guys can obviously translate to the D1 level, clearly. But I don't think expanding the tournament is going to fix anything, because at the end of the day, you're also just going to add in more teams who are in the same situation as the smaller D1 schools. You're just going to be adding more teams like a Seton Hall, which they're not that small of a D1 school, especially when it comes to basketball. But as far as...
But Indiana State.
Yeah, but you're going to be talking about schools like a Indiana State. The Providences of the world, the Butlers of the world, whenever they're good every other year. Even though, a few years ago, the Loyola Chicagos of the world, the VCUs, you get the point. You're just going to be adding a bunch more smaller D1 schools who are going to have the same opportunity at getting transfers and stuff as the other smaller D1 schools who don't have the money to go out and get the bigger guys, the bigger names. So I also don't necessarily think that you have to have a super team to make a tournament run like that. You don't need to go out and get the best transfer portal guys and build this super team and try to make a deep run in the tournament. I mean, at the beginning of March Madness, Parker, you and me talked about it. Kansas had one of, if not the best team on paper, and they got eliminated second round. So
yeah, they were their whole team was hurt. I will give them that.
That is true, but. But that's one of the risks that you got to take as one of those teams. If you're going to go out and get these bigger transfer portal guys from the D1 level, if your whole team winds up not being able to stay healthy, then I know it's not anybody's fault in that situation, but that is a risk. It can always happen to anybody. It can happen to the smaller guys. It can happen to the bigger guys. But at the end of the day, my point is the smaller D1 schools are always going to be at a disadvantage, because they just aren't going to have the financial backing that the Dukes, North Carolinas, Louisvilles, Kentuckys, Kansases of the world are going to have. And that's really all I've got to say.
Yeah. I really just don't want... I don't know. I've had such a mixed emotion, and I've had this feeling for a while, and I know I've told you, Josh, 1,000 times. I don't know. I have such a mixed emotion, bag of emotions with this NIL transfer portal stuff. Like, I think it does a lot of good for some people, and it absolutely changes some of these kids' careers, and I am all about that. I love it. I love that, like, you hear the stories of the star quarterback that thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people just went to go watch, specifically him, can't go buy a hamburger at McDonald's because he doesn't have enough money. Like, in those cases, like, the NIL is great. It's perfect. Like, yeah, these thousands and millions of people are specifically watching you, and he's not getting paid for it. That's just not fair. That's not fair. I don't agree with stuff like that. So I think the NIL has a lot of good, but I think that I don't know. It also makes me very nervous that this could get out of hand. Players are making crazy money. We just saw Rob Dillingham collab with Drake for some Kentucky apparel. Like, that is crazy. I think Rob Dillingham's like net worth is like $2 million or something like that. He's not even in the NBA right now, and he's already a $2 million. And whenever you look at that in NBA terms, that's really not that much money. But like, if you look at it as like just life in general, $2 million is crazy money. Is insane money that Josh, unfortunately, me and you, there's a good chance we will never touch that type of money before ever. And so I don't know.
And he's
I'm
what,
just so
19 with millions of dollars in the bank?
He's younger than he can't even legally drink. I know that. And so I don't know. And then you have the transfer portal, and it's just like there's no loyalty as far as players go anymore. As soon as you think like Adu Thiero, I was pretty shocked at first. I saw it written in the stars. I definitely could see it happening, but like I was like, Adu Thiero was like the one guy that I was 110% sure was coming back. There was reason for him to leave, but I could see him coming back. And then he goes and says he's going to the transfer portal and then declaring for the draft. I'm like, there's no loyalty at all. Like all right, like he's going to go for money. I don't know.
You know, that's what I think the problem is because the transfer portal essentially, I mean, the transfer portal is pretty damn new as well. I think you and me both know that as far as the current transfer portal, like the way it is right now and the way it's being used right now. That's a new system. Like the transfer portal's always existed, but the way it's being used right now, like where they don't have to wait that extra year before being able to play for the new team, you know what I'm talking about? Like, that doesn't exist anymore. And so I think because of that reason, because of those guidelines no longer being a thing on top of NIL, both of them combined is just making everything such a shitstorm. Because you got these guys at, you know, very good, respectable D1 schools like a Kentucky or Louisville. And they're genuinely in their heads being like, man, I know I'm at this blue blood program, but I could go to this blue blood program and make $100K more. And it's just having those two things combined, whereas back in the day, guys would just transfer because they genuinely didn't like it anymore at the university they were at, or genuinely just thought that they were not getting enough playing time, whatever it may be. But now you have guys leaving the team because they're not making enough money. Like that is absurd to me.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just, it consumes a lot. It consumes way too much of my thoughts every day is the transfer portal and NIL. I'm being dead serious. I think about it almost daily. Because I don't know what the solution is to let players get paid, but also not let it get out of hand come 6, 7, 8 years down the line. Because the only thing that's going to happen is money's going to continue to rise. That's just how it is. Like, it's just going to, players are going to continue to make more and more money, and they're going to, I don't know. Just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting next couple of years to see what the NCAA does and what schools do to combat this as, you know, the game changes. But, Parker, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No.
I do, just real quick. Bronny James.
Yes, I forgot about this.
His name is officially in the transfer portal, but he will also be testing the NBA draft waters. Just real quick, what's your opinion on it?
I saw it coming from 1,000 miles away. Bronny James inevitably had no business going to college in the first place. He just had to. I'm surprised he didn't go G League like a lot of players are doing. And I'm sure his dad had something to do with it. I'm sure his dad made him go to college. But he had no business being there. I knew all along that he was going to go pro as soon as he possibly can. And the reasoning is because it doesn't. I genuinely don't think that it mattered what type of season he had. If he was the best player on USC or if he was the absolute worst player, he was going to get drafted regardless, just because of his name, just because there supposedly is a chance that his dad could come to whatever team that drafts him. I found that BS because I don't even know if LeBron's going to play next year. But at the same time, like he is the son of LeBron James, who's arguably the greatest basketball player ever. He was going to go. He's gonna get all the help he needs. I'm not saying he's gonna pan out. He may never pan out. He's not gonna be as good as his dad, but he may never pan out to even be a role player. He might be out of the league in 5 years, but he also could be a NBA All-Star. He could be an absolute stud, a MVP. I don't know. I think him leaving USC to go to the NBA was always going to happen, regardless of him putting his name in the transfer portal, because he had nothing else. He had nothing to gain staying another year, in my opinion. What about you?
I mean, I thought the opposite. I thought that he might transfer, but I thought he was going to stay in college. The more the days pass, the more time that passes, I do see now that he'll probably just go to the NBA draft, although he will get a lot of attention in the transfer portal. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the top programs in the nation have already hit him up. And I'm sure he's getting some lucrative NIL deals too. But at the end of the day, like you said, his dad doesn't have very much time in the league. LeBron's even said it himself in the past couple days. I don't got much time left. And so whatever LeBron's plan is, whether it's just to wait for Bronny to get to the league and then retire, whether it's to somehow get his way onto the team that Bronny gets drafted to and play with his son for a year, I do think Bronny really just knew that he would get on a team somehow, some way, regardless of how good he did this year. And, I think LeBron knows that too. The James name holds a lot of power. If
Bronny goes undrafted, I 110% sure LeBron can make a phone call and get Bronny signed to some team, whether it's the Lakers, whether it's the Celtics, whether it's the Heat.
Yeah, he'd be signed immediately after the draft if he went undrafted.
100%.
But my guess is second round, to be honest. I think late second round. I genuinely think late second round. Yeah. But all right, Parker. Well, I think that's gonna do it from us.
Yeah, I enjoyed this episode. It should come out tomorrow. I would say around afternoon going into evening. Hopefully, I'm going to try to get these up before the Final Four. Obviously, I'm going to get this one up before the Final Four. As far as Spotify goes, Josh, are you handling that?
I could do that. Yeah, I could do that. This episode should be on Spotify at some point. Just make sure you look out for it. I will have the name of the Spotify down in the description. Because I completely am blanking on what it is off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure it is just Take His Whistle. It might be Take His Whistle Pod. But as long as you just look up Take His Whistle on Spotify, you will see us, hopefully. I'm sure there's like a popularity filter on there. But, yeah. We appreciate you guys for listening and tuning in. Again, we appreciate the support. It's been insane. It's felt like a fever dream. But thank you, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.